Hi, I'm Dan Louis, registered nurse.
My name is Ethan Bregman, and I live in the United States in California, and I am a psychologist.
Hi, I'm Chase and I work at a hotel. So I'm a hotelier, and it's not something that I chose to do. It was kind of forced upon me.
I work for the state of California in mental health policy during the day, and then I also maintain a small private practice where I work mostly with athletes.
First, lisod. Coming out will always be the hardest man siguro, pero later part, they tend to accept and understand your identity. So sometimes they tend to ask me how I came out or how I found out with myself. Sa sugod, dagan jud ma-intriga about me being trans kay mag first time nila or so naka-encounter nga trans man. But at first bother ka kasi dili ka kanahan na mailhan nila, pero ang uban malingaw, ang uban sad kay makaingon jud ka nga naglibog pa gid kung unsa ka gihapon. Later on, you have to accept man sad nga magbalik-balik jud na siya na questions, magbalik-balik jud kag entertain inana ng mga people, and you're just same as them. Nag-apas ra sad sa experience, nag-apas ra sad for a job, because at least they are open about talking sa mga inana na issues, kay lagi dili pa na siya inana ka open din sa Cebu or the Philippines. So it's part man sad of awareness and fulfilling sad sa imuhang side nga ma-come out nimo, ma-introduce nila ang trans community.
Sometimes people do ask me questions about myself, and generally I really don't mind unless somebody's being malicious. I tend to be very open and not terribly sensitive about things. So if people want to ask, generally I will answer, unless they're really not in the know, in which case I will refer them to Google if I'm not in a place where I feel like being their gender or sex education instructor. Other than that, I think it's important to answer people's actual questions because it allows me to educate people, it allows people to become more educated on trans issues, and that we're all just a bunch of normal people trying to live our lives like everybody else.
Being trans in the workplace is difficult. I work in the family business. So here, people don't ask me about being trans. But I still get misgendered all the time, even given my circumstances. But nobody ever asks me about being trans here.
The fact that I am transgender does not generally come up in my workplace, although the one time it did was when I went to change my name legally as well as my gender marker. And at that time, the administration, thinking that they were doing the right thing, felt it was necessary to let everybody in the department know that this was happening. But the fact is, I only know about 10 people in the department, so they basically ended up outing me to hundreds of people.
So workplace, just a few months, because it's my first job, because I have to deal with supervisors, policies, so nagka-issue at some point about hospital uniform. They tend to let you wear the uniform you're not designated and feel about yourself. So but the long run solve raman sad mo to smooth ra sad as I'm already a year and a half na sa institution and everything's going quite well. Wala ra kayo issues and accepting ra sa imong co-workmates.
Hire trans.
Being a transgender nurse, I guess, dili siya mo matter whether you're a cis or a trans. You yourself fell in love with the profession, and that won't be a hindrance of giving quality care to your patients. For companies na maybe issue siya or dili of hiring transgender employees, I guess that won't identify nimo and how you do your job. because you know your capabilities, you know the quality of work you're giving to your patients, and the respect you're giving as well to your co-workmates and doctors. So dili jud siya, I guess, mo matter.
Companies should hire based on competence, skills, maybe experience, potential, background. But transgender status should not at all affect one's eligibility to work in any sort of profession. You know, in the hotel industry, it's rather rare to see transgender people working in this industry because there's still a lot of discrimination. I mean, can you name anyone you know working in a hotel who is trans in the Philippine context? Your transgender status doesn't affect your work performance. It doesn't scare away clients. That's a totally unfounded fear.
For me, coming out as transgender, dili siya hindrance, because in my existence, coming out, I could really say it's so far the huge success I've had in my existence. I guess that's what matters man siguro. You make life worth living than always being not comfortable with who you are every time you walk around the street.
Being transgender is not an obstacle to success. Transgender people can do everything that cisgender people can do. Some people are in arts, some people are in medicine, in finance, in law, in the hospitality industry. Transgender status just doesn't affect those things, you know? Except when there is discrimination. When people refuse to hire transgender people, then it affects transgender people's lives. Your trans status doesn't affect what sort of work you can do, your potential, or the skills you can learn, or anything like that, you know?
I think often one of the biggest barriers to success for trans people is the fact that documents don't line up. Here in the US, obviously, it's much easier, but in the Philippines, where you can't change your name and gender marker, so here you're a man, and you hand somebody your identification, and it says you're a woman with a woman's name, or vice versa, you're a woman, and you hand somebody your identification, and it says you're a man with a man's name. People just don't know what to do with that, and it causes a great deal of discomfort. It will cause discomfort for other people in a given environment, and therefore, I think often people would rather just not deal with it due to that fear. On the other hand, it also chips away at our own confidence to have to show up and present some sort of identification and brace yourself for the repercussions of what that's going to look like. So hopefully, especially in the Philippines, that will change in the future. I think that will change the lives of a lot of people and make things much, much easier for trans individuals in general.